Look at some of the stories that are playing out in East Africa now, and there's quite a few actually. I mean, we've got significant political, legal, and public health developments in Kenya. Closely watched court rulings playing out there, major implications for the country's constitutional court order. Deputy President Rigathi Gachakua's challenge to his impeachment. And in Tanzania, a landmark judgment by the African Court on Human and People's Rights has intensified debate over the future of the death penalty. Yeah, to help us unpack all of that, we're now joined by Dennis Beru, who's a journalist and team leader at Grassroot Journalism Kenya. Dennis, jambo, habari yako, my friend.
Jambo sana, hope uko salama South Africa.
Fiti sana, zikomo. Thank you so much. So
Wow.
let's start in your country. The Kenyan High Court is due to rule on Mr. Gachakua's challenge to his impeachment. For listeners outside Kenya, perhaps you can tell us what's at stake politically and constitutionally in this particular case.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter Ndoro. And of course, the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, a few hours ago, suffered a major legal setback after the High Court dismissed his petition challenging the impeachment that removed him from office in October 2024. In a detailed judgment delivered on Monday, Justice Eric Ogola, Anthony Mrima, and Farida Mugambi rejected the key arguments advanced by Gachagua and upheld the impeachment process conducted by Parliament, dealing a significant blow to his bid to be reinstated as a deputy president. The bench first confirmed that the court had jurisdictions to hear and determine the matter before proceeding to address the substantive issues raised in the petition. And on allegations of bias against Speaker of the National Assembly, the judges found that Gachagua had failed to provide sufficient evidence to support the claims, dismissing them as unsubstantiated. And the court also upheld the public participation process that preceded the impeachment, finding the parliament had provided adequate notice through advertisement published in both English and Swahili newspapers, and had offered citizens a genuine opportunity to submit their views. And at the same time, Peter Ndoro, the court has awarded Rigathi Gachagua 15 million Kenya shilling for what they term as, he was not given a fair hearing. And now what is happening at the moment from Gashagua's legal team, they are planning now to do the last appeal at the Court of Appeal. So we are waiting for other development. And as it stands, Peter Ndoro, Gachagua was impeached and he is barred from holding public office.
Okay, case that we'll certainly keep on watching. Let's go to Tanzania now, where the African Court on Human and People's Rights has ordered the country to abolish mandatory death sentences and remove hangings from its method of execution. I guess this is a pretty significant ruling for Tanzania and for human rights across the continent.
Yes, the ruling targets section of 197 of Tanzania's penal code, which currently prescribes only one punishment for murder, death by hanging, with no alternative sentences available to the judges. And the court held that the mandatory imposition of a death penalty violates fundamental human rights, including rights to life, as protected under the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights Treaty ratified by Tanzania. The decision was delivered on Friday, June 5th, by a panel of 8 judges of the African Court on Human Rights and People's Rights by President Blaise Jikaya and Vice President Shafika Ben Saula. And the ruling arose from three separate cases involving seven death row inmates convicted of murder and awaiting execution in different prisons across Tanzania. And now the applicants argued that Tanzania had violated several of their fundamental human rights, including rights to life, human dignity, a fair trial, legal representation, and a hearing within a reasonable time. And one of the inmates, that is Chacha Jeremiah, Matthew Jeremiah, Daniel, and Pascal Ligoye Mashiku were serving death sentences at Butimba Central Police in Mwanza and filed a joint application before the African Court. And now the three sought recognition that their rights had been violated and requested compensation of up to $10,000 alongside other remedies, including release from the prison. So now this is a big win for the three inmates, and of course, inmates serving a death sentence in Tanzania.
Do you think that the Tanzanian government will comply with the African court's ruling?
Of course, this is the highest court in the continent, and of course, the court has now ordered to abolish the mandatory death penalty from the law and remove the hanging as a method of execution. And we are really watching closely to see whether the Tanzanian authority will do as been directed by the court. But we all understand that what has been happening recently in Tanzania, and with the case involving the Tanzania's main opposition leader Tundu Lissu. So we are really watching keenly to see whether they'll be able to do that because we know what has been happening in terms of the violation of human rights in Tanzania recently under the new regime.
Right. We're seeing a number of countries repatriating its citizens outside of South Africa from what they perceive as Afrophobia, anti-foreign sentiment, and some violence that we've seen in parts of the country. Malawi is one of the latest countries assisting its citizens to leave South Africa. How has this development been received in Malawi itself, and what concerns are being raised by Malawi in terms of the safety of its citizens in South Africa?
Yes, it is sad what has been happening, and of course, the 150 Malawians repatriated from South Africa arrived safely in Lilongwe, Malawi on Monday, and this according to the authorities. The repatriation follows the violence in South Africa, Western Cape province, where there were reports just over a week ago, door-to-door intimidation, as well as the death of two Mozambicans in Mosei Bay. And Malawians were among them, the number of foreign nationals who had sought refuge in temporary camps in Mosei Bay. This is according to a statement from Lilongwe. And we have seen other countries like Ghana, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe have already organized repatriation flights and transport after raising concerns about xenophobia in South Africa. And anti-migration groups are demanding the undocumented migrants leave the country and have set June 30th as a deadline. And of course, we have seen 74 of the Zimbabwean arrived home on Sunday after they had been driven from Mosei Bay transport organized by the Zimbabwean authorities. And some families with young children say they fled the Western Cape fearing for their life. And at the end of last month, we saw Ghana organize a repatriation flight from Johannesburg for nearly 300 of its citizens, and a group of 680 more arrived in the Ghana's capital, Accra, at the weekend. And We have seen some contradicting, information, and of course, South African Foreign Affairs Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola accused Ghanaian counterpart of spreading misinformation about the xenophobia in South Africa. In an post on X linking the interview with Ghana's Foreign Minister Samuel Okudzezo Ablakwa gave a news of in a station in Accra, describing it as a very disappointing. And we also talk about the reports of foreigners being killed after being attacked in South Africa, and restated a call for Africa Union to investigate what was really happening. And Lamola disputed the two Nigerians and five Mozambican who were killed in separate acts of violence, and that was not related to the undocumented movement that is ongoing in South Africa. And we expected, some information from the President Ramaphosa, but Ramaphosa stated that the deportation of undocumented migrants will be speed up, and but people should not take the law in their hands. So more is to follow, and some of the African countries are still planning to repatriate its citizens from South Africa.
Yeah, that's right. That includes Nigeria as well. So the Ebola outbreak in the region has led to border restrictions, disruptions in trade. How severely are communities and small businesses in particular affected by these disruptions, and particularly around Uganda's borders?
Yeah, many traders have been affected, and one of them is a lady by the name Leah Masika, and of course, a valuable consignment of plantain stuck in a long convoy of truck on the sides of the Uganda-Congo border, and a cargo destined for Uganda was starting to leak water and will go bad within hours if there was no movement. Uganda was awaiting clearance from authorities for the trucks to pass through the Mpondwe border post on Thursday after they were prevented from entering or leaving Uganda as part of the escalating measures to prevent a cross-border Ebola contagion. And on May 28, about 2 weeks ago, Congo declared an outbreak of Ebola in the eastern Ituri province, Uganda closest western border, in a decision that reflected growing fear of cross-border contagion. And exemptions were made only in emergency cases, including for the outpace of the response. Authorities in the Uganda frontiers, district of Kasese have tightened the measures. And now traders say they are now frustrated by the slow movement of cargo and trucks. The Uganda and the Congo border, several hundred miles long, crossed by numerous outpaths, have been beyond formal border posts. And Peter Ndoro, we are now seeing that the laws, because
Right.
Mpondwe estimates to have about 131 million US dollar in 2023, according to the Ugandan Bureau of Statistics.
Dennis, always great talking to you, my brother. Have a great week ahead, and we'll chat again next week, Tuesday. Take care, my brother. Kwaheri.
Asante sana, kuwa na siku njema.
That's Dennis Beru, journalist and team leader at Grassroots Journalism Kenya, keeping us up to date what's been happening in the region. Right, it's 6:30 Central African time.